How's everyone doing? Hope you're having a good day. In this video, I want to talk about the future of Gen Z and also every other generation that's going to come after that, um, and what that might look like for us. I hope we lock in at some point because I feel like a lot of Gen Z is starting to give up. I don't know. We see all the games that everyone is playing and pretending is normal. The whole 9 to 5 experience, going to work for 40 hours a week, having 2 days off, and then you're right back to it the next week. It's so blatantly obvious how fucked up this system is in terms of how people live day to day. And it's all just to afford basic needs. We're all just going to work so we can put food on the table, especially if we have kids and a family. I don't know. I then this There's this whole climate crisis that everyone's talking about recently. I don't know if that's actually legit. A bunch of people are saying that we're going to die in 30, 40 years. Other people are saying we're not going to get wiped out. Some people are saying it's not real. I don't really know what to think anymore. And to be honest, it's not that I don't care, but I'm just so desensitized to all the nightmare news that, like, okay, it's one other way that the world's gonna end. Whoop de fucking do. And it's sad that it's gotten to this point because, like, I grew up with a decent amount of hope for the future. Like, we were all taught that America's number one. We all are gonna have the best lives. Like growing up, get a house, get a family. Um, you work until you're in your 60s, and then you retire. Then you can enjoy life. Now that I said it out loud, that sounds fucking horrendous. I don't want any part of that. But I don't know anymore. I hate the fact that everyone born in the US is expected to take part in this system. And we all say that we have freedom. I don't think so. And I'll explain why. So, first, I want to ask, like, what is the definition of freedom? For me, I would say freedom is the ability to do what you want, whenever you want, where you want, as long as it doesn't affect other people in a negative way or hurt them in any way. That's what I would say freedom is. But we are forced to go to school for 18-ish years, and then we're also forced to either go to college if you want to do that, but you'll eventually have to work to afford the basic needs of survival. And you do that for like 30, 40, sometimes 50 years. And then, assuming you even make it to retirement, now you can enjoy life. This is so just violently obvious that this is an awful way to live. And I don't know how people in the older generation did this. I mean, I do, because when they went to work, they weren't getting scammed and they could actually, like, buy a house with their lunch money. Like, everything was so cheap back then and they were making so much money that, like, working didn't seem like an awful thing. In fact, I feel like everyone in my generation would be totally okay with working if we could actually afford to buy a house or the basic needs for that matter, like groceries and healthcare and childcare and stuff like that. But that's just not the world that we live in anymore. Um, so yeah, I know that I don't want to do this whole work for 30 years thing. So I'm trying to brainstorm a different path. Um, I'm hoping content creation. or like maybe mental health things too. And like I do like philosophy as well. I'm kind of just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks, but I'm kind of getting a little bit off topic. Um, but yeah, I'm not doing this 9 to 5 bullshit for all my life. I have one life, and society wants me to spend it working. One of my favorite quotes is, "Only a slave quantifies their existence through work." And that might seem a bit dramatic at first, but our society is built on the working class. Like, billionaires would not be billionaires if it weren't for us. We're the ones running all the machinery and making shit happen. They just happen to own everything. And I don't care how hard billionaires work. You will never convince me that their work is more important than the working class. Simply because they would not be in this position if it weren't for the working class. But I don't know, with the wealth inequality just growing and growing, the it just seems hopeless. It really does. And like I said earlier, seeing all the awful shit on the news daily, you really get desensitized at some point. And I really hope that my generation locks in, because I feel like we are a lot more aware and not willing to put up with the bullshit, or not willing to pretend like everything going on is normal. Like, what do you mean we are all so incredibly stressed and anxious that we're complacent in where we are? Because we're all locked into a state of survival mentally, that we have nothing else to think about besides just surviving, getting through the day, getting through the week, making sure we have enough money for rent, or making sure our kids have enough food for the week. Like, it's so beyond hopeless, but I feel like that's what they want. You know, if I were a evil billionaire, that's kind of a redundant sentence actually, but if I were a billionaire and I wanted to control everyone in society, I would make it so that every week they barely scrape by, like, in terms of money, affording the basic needs for survival. So that alone puts them on high alert, like high stress, high anxiety, just trying to get through the week. Put them in a state of survival. And then on top of that, they use something, whether that be drugs, food, entertainment, anything like that, to cope with their shitty situation, which in turn brings in more profits. Yeah, that's how I would control them. Just it's just one big human experiment. We are lab rats to them. And I really hope that my generation locks in and changes things and is as radical as the evil fuckers that put us in this place. I have hope, but I also don't know what to believe anymore because of all the awful shit going on. I don't know. I'm kind of just ranting at this point, but at the end of the day, I hope that my generation can prove that we're willing to do something and change the world for the better, because that's what needs to happen. One can only hope, right? That's gonna do it for this video. If you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and have a good day or night.